America. A great nation that's contributed some wonderful things to our world, the Broadway musical, aviation, and Kathy Kelly, but it's also given us spray cheese in a can, so I suppose not everything's gonna be a hit. The United States Championship is a belt with nearly half a century of history, so it's inevitable that some of the contests for it would be the wrestling equivalent of whatever monstrosity this is. Who saw cheese and thought this was appropriate? Cretins. Anyway, I'm Dan, hailing from Cheshire, a place of good quality cheese, but also partsFUNknown, and these are the 10 worst United States title matches ever. Number 10, Austin Theory versus John Cena, WrestleMania 39. This match is on the list in large part because I completely forgot that A, Theory wins it, and B, it was actually for the title, which is a damning indictment. It was a complete mess of a program from start to finish, honestly. Top stars elevating the talent of tomorrow as a well-worn wrestling trope. Think Bret Hart and Steve Austin for probably the best example of it. But if you're looking to get a new star over in the eyes of your fans, it's probably best not to have arguably the most iconic wrestler of his generation spend a few weeks telling everybody that the new kid sucks. It's possible that could have been fixed between the bells if they had a good match, but they simply did not, opening night one of this year's WrestleMania in an effort that felt like they didn't realize it was on the main card and not the kickoff. Ref bump, visual tap out, low blow, finish. That'll send him to the moon. Wabadoo. Number 9, 20-man Battle Royal, Raw 2014. To put it politely, a Battle Royal for a championship is not the best idea. A vacant title? Perhaps. Or the Royal Rumble version of this stipulation even. I liked the idea of the 2016 gig. Roman running a 29-man gauntlet trying to cling on felt intriguing, until they let him go for a nap for most of it. But a standard Battle Royal doesn't work in this case, largely because with so many people in the ring at once, your audience are just waiting for the scene to clear and actually see what's going on, which in this match takes ages. And on top of that, the belt in question is Dean Ambrose's US title, a reign that's lasted for nearly a full year. The conceit is that this is all shenanigans to stack the deck against Ambrose, which I suppose could make sense if your plan is to elevate him into the main event picture off the back of it, except that's not the plan. Rollins is the one that goes off to join the Authority. They feud for a while, and by WrestleMania 31, it's Rollins and Reigns in the closing moments, while Ambrose has pivoted to the other mid-card belt. Call this an opportunity squandered. Number 8, Stunning Steve Austin versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Fall Brawl 94. Almost a direct response to their best ever entry from last week's list, this again features Stunning Steve and Ricky the Dragon, but it's almost the polar opposite in effect. Steamboat had won the belt from Austin in a no DQ match the month after their brilliant effort at Bash at the Beach, during which he suffered a back injury that would lead him to retire from the ring for 8 years. Steamboat comes down to the ring at Fall Brawl resplendent in the most mid-90s attire imaginable, and returns the belt to WCW Commissioner Nick Bockwinkel, who subsequently crowns Stunning Steve. But wait, says the Boxster. I'm just trying it. You'll defend the title tonight against Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And then Austin throws a strop for literally ages before turning around into a backdrop from Duggan, who then hits the world's lightest splash for the 3 and is your new champ. The title swap is drawn from necessity, but was this the best follow-up angle they could come up with? I don't think so. Number 7, Rusev versus Titus O'Neil, Money in the Bank 2016. Those who watch our weekly podcast know I like to waffle a bit. I've always been the type of person to use 3 sentences when one would do. My friends used to tease me for world building while I was just telling an anecdote about my trip to the shops. Skip to the end, they'd say, and we'd laugh. And I'd cry. Anyway, that's how I feel about this match. I literally think the only reason it happened is because Money in the Bank took place on Father's Day. It's basically all they talk about. It goes on for 8 minutes, and the most notable thing that happens is that Titus O'Neil kisses his son on the lips. And honestly, going on about that is far weirder than a family showing affection to each other. And that's the other bit of quote-unquote heat in this match. His sons are at ringside, which means they have to watch their dad lose, and then Rusev is a bit mean to them. 8 minutes of nothing. My trip to the shops is honestly more interesting, and that story is that I went for toothpaste and they didn't have any. What a swerve. Number 6, Santino Marella versus Antonio Cesaro, SummerSlam pre-show 2012. Kickoff matches exist to be on while you're pouring drinks into solo cups and chatting with your friends ahead of the main show, or, for us European viewers, while you're pouring yourself a strong coffee and picking which cereal you think will slow-release carb you enough to stay awake. This match is going to set the pace for the whole show, says Matt Stryker on commentary, and let me tell you, on this particular night, that may as well have been my cue to go to bed. Cesaro is accompanied here by Oksana, and they have a little snog. Santino goes to put on his Cobra glove, but Cesaro throws it out of the ring, and the rest of the match is built around whether he'll be able to get it back. I swear to God, at one point the commentary asks what offense Santino has without that Cobra, and he is the champion going into this. In the end, it turns out he has a secret backup glove, rendering all that's come before pointless, but then, and I you not, the Cobra glove is distracted because it fancies Oksana, which gives Cesaro time to capitalize. Goodness gracious, what utter bollocks. Number 5, Zack Ryder versus Jack Swagger, Raw 2012. This is the second direct follow-up from a best-of candidate off last week's list, and it is far more egregious. Let's start with the positive. Zack and Jack rhyme. That's fun to say. And incidentally, ack is also the sound I make whenever I think think about what happened here. After a brilliant 2012 that saw Ryder ride a wave of fan affection to the United States title, 2012 kicked off a frankly disgraceful burial of the man who had the temerity to get over with the crowd on his own. After being attacked by Kane, Ryder was forced into a match with Jack Swagger, heavily taped ribs and all. The match is dull and perfunctory, soundtracked by Vicky Guerrero, and Ryder loses the title unceremoniously to the chagrin of his girlfriend Eve Torres. After the match, GM John Laurinaitis says, "Oh, sorry, you weren't medically cleared, my bad," which would be a good foundation for a heroic babyface story where he goes on and reclaims his gold against all odds, right? Nah, let's just push him off the stage and have his girlfriend make out with John Cena. That'll teach the nerds who are trying to enjoy watching our show. Number 4, Bret Hart vs. The Miz, Raw 2010. Dear Lord above, where do I start? This is an absolute disaster of a segment. I don't even want to call it a match because Bret Hart's in it, and that feels insulting even to jean shorts Bret Hart. And actually, same goes for The Miz. As we are continuing to learn, say it with me, The Miz is a very good professional wrestler. Excellent class. Same time again next week. Miz has goaded Bret into this match and then announces gleefully that he's hired some backup to, quote, neutralize the Hart dynasty. Enter Vladimir Kozlov and William Regal to precisely no reaction, only for them to be immediately taken out by aforementioned dynasty. Natalia's here now. What's she gonna do? Oh, slap Miz and then run away in concern when Bret gets battered. How useful. Don't worry though, because the dynasty land a heart attack on Miz, which is enough to knock him down so Bret can pop on a sharpshooter about as convincing as the one I did on my little brother in the main event of Living Room Slamboree 1999, and then the Miz taps. This match could have been an email, and even then, it would have been spam. Number 3, Chris Kanyon vs. Kane, SmackDown 2001. Decades of takes have been made about the invasion, and here's mine. I was a child who'd never really seen WCW, so I remember being quite into it. But I'm gonna have to do a rewatch and possibly reconsider that assessment in light of remembering what happened on this episode of SmackDown. This was the US Championship's introduction into the WWF universe, and because pettiness trumps creativity, it was handed from Booker T to Chris Kanyon, and its first defense was against Kane. And the word defense here is about as solid as Man United's defense this season. Am I right, lads? Because what happens is, Kanyon realizes he's in over his head against the Big Red Machine, and within seconds decides to grab hold of corrupt WCW referee Nick Patrick, who disqualifies Kanyon, thus cheating Kane out of his potential title win. This is how you want to introduce the United States Championship? A belt with history threading Booker T all the way back to Harley Race, one of the top prizes of this company that you're claiming is a perilous threat to the very existence of the WWF? Sure, Vince. Although, in fairness, you could probably make the argument that he was simply carrying on the grand tradition established by WCW themselves, because, number 2, whatever WCW was doing at the end there. Take your pick. Do you want the overbooked mess of David Flair versus Buff Bagwell? How about Steiner versus Sting in an underwhelming final to an underwhelming tournament that ends with Vampiro popping out of a hole in the ring to drag Sting under? Scott Hall versus Roddy Piper in a devastatingly bad match where the presence of Disco Inferno isn't even the worst part of it, and how many times have you heard that sentence? Or might I interest you in General Erection, do you get it, against Lance Storm and Jim Duggan? Oh good lord, what are we even doing here? WCW had already started its crushing descent by the time Vince Russo got his hands on the book, and started a run so creatively horrific that conspiracy theories abound to this day that he was a secret mole sent on behalf of Vince McMahon to destroy the competition. Ironically, that's a far better story than anything Russo was able to come up with. The death of WCW is a fascinating parable that apparently no one has learned from, even though we're able to rewatch it with morbid fascination at the touch of a button. And number 1, Austin Theory cashes in on Seth Rollins, Raw 2022. Oh boy, for 15 plus years the Money in the Bank contract was defined as an opportunity for a world title shot, and the last time I checked, the United States is not the entire world, despite what they might think. Zing, burn. So you're already confused as an audience member as to why this is even happening and whether he's allowed to do that. And then you remember that Theory has about 8 months left before his contract runs out, during which time who knows what might happen to the world title. Also, US title shots are handed out like Halloween candy, so why bother wasting a contract? In fact, at one point, Miz had the briefcase while US champion. The Miz erasure, I simply cannot. And the match is crap as well. Lashley has plonked Seth through the announce table after deciding he didn't want to go for the title. I mean, that's one thing. It's also why Theory cashed in to begin with. Then Lashley comes back and starts beating up Theory because he does want the belt. Does the belt matter or not? Pick a lane, I have a headache. And then none of it matters because Seth retains, and then none of it matters even harder because Theory gets a shot at the title at Survivor Series and wins it there instead. Excuse my French, but this was très stupide. And that's our list. Head down to the comments and add your favourite bit of rubbish to this trash fire. And while you're there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and while away the hours with our treasure trove of lists, like this one. Prestige. WWE's United States Championship certainly has the history, being a direct continuation of the NWA belt first established in 1975. And although their commitment to its prestige has been more up and down than my glucose levels after a visit to the Cheesecake Factory, it's